In what ways does your media product use, develop, or challenge forms and conventions of real media products? When researching the codes and conventions of horror films, I researched the different horror trailers, films, and scenes to get an understanding of what is used and portrayed in horror films. I watched many different horror films to figure out things that were commonly used so that Karina and I could create a horror trailer that followed the codes and conventions but also subverted some stereotypes. When watching the different films from the genre, I came to the conclusion that many horror films included a haunted house with a family moving in, a religious context, or a child as a villain-driven storyline. Karina and I then decided we wanted to use codes and conventions of horror films in our trailer, but create a storyline that had not been used before, as horrors are often repetitive. Therefore, we came up with ideas we wanted to challenge the typical horror storylines, so we thought to base the film around teenagers and have a teenager who is out to get her friends. We also wanted to make the storyline somewhat realistic, but obviously more dramatic. We thought about things that could make a teenager have a killing spree of her friends. We then thought about the effects of alcohol and drugs. As the stereotype of teenagers can often be that they are experimental with different substances, we decided to go along with the idea of drugs. This again subverts typical horror storylines, as party and drugs are never used as a main plot base. When we asked our target audience what they did not like about horror films, many of them responded with the storylines are too repetitive and a fresh and up-to-date plot would interest them. This is why we decided to challenge the horror genre. However, we kept to some codes and conventions of horror films in the plot. For example, there is a killing spree as a villain-driven plot with blood and gore, but also plot twists are used to play with the viewer's minds. We chose for the friends to be the killers and had three best friends as the victims, as this is unexpected. When filming, we had dark, dull, and dim lighting to create a spooky atmosphere. We used special effects makeup, which included cuts, burns, blood, to make the trailer horror-like and gory. We used props such as rope and pliers for the graphic scenes, which are commonly used in horror films. We also chose locations carefully. We chose to do the drowning scene in a bathroom and the pliers pulling the teeth out on the stairs in the house. This is because bad effects usually occur in familiar places in horror films. Korea and I chose to use lots of graphic scenes in the trailer to intrigue the audience and keep them on the edge of their seats, making them want to watch on. We also made the trailer like a puzzle with all different shots modelled up, but clear enough for the audience to have a rough idea what the film was about. I watched the film Annabelle, which gave me some inspiration for my own media product. There was a use of a motif of the letter A after the killings. As our film was based on the drugs, which gave a good effect or a bad effect depending on the individual circumstances, Karina and I chose the yin-yang symbol as our motif. We then drew on pills in a black pen the yin-yang sign. We also used the yin-yang candle holder as a motif. The blood and gore played a major role in the making of our trailer to look like a horror film. I watched both psychological and graphic horrors to see the codes and conventions in both and how they differ. From this, I decided that I wanted to produce a graphic horror. I watched clips from Saw and got inspiration for certain parts of the makeup, like the mouthful of blood in the scene where the girl's teeth are being pulled out. In horror films, suspense is often created through editing and sound. Therefore, when we edited, we wanted to make the whole trailer have a sense of suspense and make the audience feel anxious. We did this through adding effects to certain shots, such as a strobe light, and placed them evenly throughout. These shots had gruesome parts, which makes the viewer feel uneasy. The first shot of the trailer is quite scary, so it puts the viewer on the edge of their seat straight away. We created an image of the age rating that is shown at the beginning of trailers to say the age of the appropriate audiences, because this is a convention of film trailers. For the poster, we researched lots of different horror film posters to get inspiration and see what the posters consisted of. From my research, I realised that posters often include a shot that is seen in the film or the trailer, so that the audiences can relate the two together. The characters on the poster have also been the main characters in the film because the poster is advertised in the film. Another convention of the film poster is that the font on the title of the film is consistent, meaning it is the same wherever the film is advertised. Therefore, we created the title on Photoshop and used it on the poster, trailer, and magazine cover. The poster also always either states the date of the film or that it is released, or says coming soon. We chose to write coming soon as we felt like it looked best with our poster. We then added the three main actresses' names that featured on the poster and placed each name above each actress. The name of the main actor or actress are often put on posters because it can attract the audience to see a film if the film stars one of their favourite actors. We also included credits of all the people who helped in the production of the film, which is always included in a film poster. We looked in detail and thoroughly to see how the font was. We then made up our own production companies, distributors and so on, and laid them out in the same format that is seen in the real posters. Lastly, we made the magazine cover to finalise our media package. We looked at different magazines including Empire, Sight and Sound, Little White Lies and Total Film. We researched into the magazines to see what type of films they advertised and then decided which one would be best for our film. We chose Total Film as they are a British-based magazine and our film is a British production. We looked at everything that is put on Total Film front covers by researching a large amount of their covers that had been published over the years. From this, I was able to see the codes and conventions used in the Total Film that we could apply to our own magazine cover. From the research, we could see that the covers usually have the main actor on the front page by themselves and looking into the camera. When we were taking pictures, our aim was to get a mid-shot where the actress was staring into the camera, which we done successfully. We also used the exact same font for the title, Total Film, because this is a typical convention. Around the image, we wrote different things to draw the reader in, such as exclusive interviews and behind-the-scenes footage, and so on, as this again is something commonly found on the cover of a Total Film.